Imagine waking up in a world where the sun hasn't risen for 3 months, where the air burns your lungs with every breath, where a 5-minute mistake can mean death by freezing. Sounds like science fiction? For some families in Canada's far north, it's just Tuesday. Today we're going to discover how the Inuit don't just survive, but thrive in conditions that would kill any of us within hours. Minus 40 degrees Celsius. Let's stop here for a second because you need to understand what these numbers really mean for the human body. We're not talking about uncomfortable cold or I need a thicker coat. We're talking about a silent, relentless killer that doesn't forgive for even a second. At 40 degrees below zero, your saliva literally freezes before hitting the ground. Imagine spitting and seeing small ice crystals falling from your lips. The air you breathe is so cold it forms microscopic ice crystals inside your lungs. Each breath is like inhaling millions of tiny frozen needles that pierce delicate lung tissue. But this is just the beginning of the horror story. If you touch metal at this temperature without protection, your skin instantly sticks. It's not a metaphor. It's molecular welding between your flesh and the object. American soldiers in Alaska learned this the hard way. Tongues stuck to rifles, hands welded to doorknobs. The only way to break free is literally tearing off pieces of skin, leaving open wounds that, at this temperature, can become gangrenous within hours. Let's talk about what happens to your body in those first fatal minutes. Your exposed skin begins to freeze in less than 10 minutes. It's not a gradual sensation. It's a frozen burn that penetrates layer by layer. First, blood vessels contract desperately, trying to preserve heat for vital organs. Your extremities, fingers, nose, ears, lose circulation. Flesh changes color, from normal pink to pale white, then grayish blue, and finally black. It's necrosis. It's irreversible cell death. And we're only talking about 10 minutes unprotected. But cold is only half of this nightmare equation. The other component that makes this reality even more brutal is darkness. Not the darkness of night, where there's still a moon, some stars, maybe distant city lights. We're talking about absolute polar darkness. For 3-4 consecutive months, the sun simply doesn't exist above the horizon. It's as if someone turned off the world's light and forgot where the switch is. In this total darkness, your brain goes into psychological collapse. Scientifically, this is called extreme seasonal affective disorder. Your serotonin levels plummet. Melatonin spikes uncontrollably. You completely lose your sense of time. Your biological clock, calibrated by millions of years of evolution to follow solar cycles, simply breaks. People report hallucinations, deep depression, complete loss of motivation for basic activities like eating or moving. Imagine trying to find food in this darkness. Imagine trying to distinguish between a safe direction and a direction that will lead you to certain death on infinite ice. Imagine trying to maintain your sanity when your brain is screaming that something is fundamentally wrong with the world. Now combine both. Minus 40 degrees Celsius and total darkness. You can't see where you're stepping. Every step could be on solid ice or thin ice that will break and throw you into waters that will kill you in less than 3 minutes. You can't see predators. You can't see holes. You can't see anything indicating direction, distance, or danger. To contextualize this impossibility, Antarctica, considered the planet's most inhospitable place, has scientific stations with cutting-edge technology, artificial heating, freeze-dried food, satellite communication equipment, and even so, trained scientists die regularly, and they stay only a few months with complete technological support. The Inuit have been doing this for 4,000 years, without modern technology, without external communication, without emergency rescue. Entire generations were born, grew up, reproduced, and died under these conditions that would kill any of us within hours. Entire families, including small children, elderly people, pregnant women, all surviving in conditions that our military survival manuals classify as incompatible with prolonged human life. While you need air conditioning when it's 30 degrees, heating when it's 15 degrees, special clothes when it's 5 degrees, there's an entire people who transformed minus 40 degrees in total darkness into home sweet home. This is the challenge that defies not just logic, it defies everything we think we know about the limits of human endurance. First of all, let's destroy the first myth. They are not Eskimos. That word doesn't even exist in their language. Eskimo was a pejorative term invented by neighboring tribes that literally means raw meat eaters, an attempt at insult that became a Western stereotype. The real name, the name they chose for themselves, is Inuit, and it simply means the people. But what people are these who chose to live where life itself seems impossible? The Inuit story begins more than 4,000 years ago, in one of history's most audacious human migrations. Imagine, while other civilizations established themselves in fertile valleys near flowing rivers under abundant sun, a group of people looked north to the frozen lands and said, "That's where we'll build our future." They came from Siberia, crossing the Bering Strait when it was still an ice bridge. But they didn't stop in Alaska, as would be sensible. No, they continued migrating, spreading across the Canadian Arctic, Greenland, until reaching the Far East. A journey of thousands of kilometers through the planet's most inhospitable places, carrying entire families, including babies and elderly. And here's what will shock you. They weren't running from anything. They weren't climate refugees or political exiles. They deliberately chose to live where no other people could survive. It was a strategic, almost militaristic decision to dominate territory no one else wanted, ensuring they would never be invaded, never be disputed, never be conquered. Today, the Inuit aren't a single people, but a family of interrelated cultures. You have the Inupiat in Alaska, the Inuit proper in Canada, the Kalaallit in Greenland. Each group developed specific adaptations for their particular environment. The Netsilik, for example, are masters at hunting seals through ice. The Caribou Inuit specialize in following caribou migrations. The Copper Inuit discovered how to work native copper at impossible temperatures. But what they all share is a characteristic that defies our understanding of human nature. They are genetically optimized for the impossible. Recent scientific studies discovered that the Inuit possess specific genetic mutations that other peoples don't have. Their bodies produce more body heat, burn fat more efficiently, and maintain blood circulation in extremities even when anyone else would have already lost fingers to frostbite. But genetics is just the first chapter of the story. The second chapter is even more impressive: knowledge. The Inuit developed a knowledge system so sophisticated that modern universities still study their techniques. They know how to read weather through wind nuances that meteorologists with million-dollar equipment can't detect. They can navigate through completely white landscapes using reference points invisible to us. The specific texture of different types of snow, the echo that sound makes against different ice formations, even the scent that different wind directions carry. They are intuitive engineers who build thermally perfect structures using only ice. They are marine biologists who know seal behavior better than scientists with decades of research. They are community psychologists who developed social systems capable of keeping groups together during months of total isolation. They are artists who transform animal bones into surgical precision tools. And perhaps most impressive, they are natural pedagogues. All knowledge is transmitted orally, from generation to generation, without losing precision. An 8-year-old Inuit child knows more about Arctic survival than a special forces soldier trained for cold weather combat. Their social system is built for collective survival. There's no private property in the Western sense. Everything essential for survival belongs to the community. If a hunter succeeds, the entire village eats. If a family loses their igloo to a storm, the entire village rebuilds. If someone gets sick, the entire village cares. It's functional Arctic socialism for millennia. They are also masters of sustainability before this word existed. Nothing is wasted. Absolutely nothing. Animal meat becomes food, fat becomes fuel, skin becomes clothing and shelter, bones become tools and weapons. Even blood is used as binding to glue different materials. It's perfect circular economy applied to extreme survival. These are the impossible survivors, a people who transformed frozen hell into home, who made darkness an ally, who converted isolation into unity, who turned scarcity into abundance through knowledge, cooperation, and deep understanding that survival isn't individual, it's collective. They aren't just people who survive in the Arctic. They're living proof that there are no limits to human adaptation when knowledge, community, and respect for nature meet. Close your eyes for a moment and try to imagine the most isolated place you've ever visited. Maybe a deserted beach, a rural road, a mountain trail. Now multiply that isolation by 1,000, by 10,000, because not even your wildest imagination can capture the absolute vastness of the Canadian Arctic that the Inuit call home. We're talking about Nunavut, a territory occupying 2 million square kilometers. That's almost a quarter of all Brazilian territory concentrated in a region where the average annual temperature is minus 20 degrees Celsius. To give you a sense of scale, it's an area larger than all of Mexico with a population smaller than a medium-sized city. There are more people living in your neighborhood than in this entire gigantic territory. Imagine waking up one morning and looking out the window. But there's no window. There's a small opening in your ice shelter. And what do you see? Nothing. Literally nothing. Just white extending to infinity in all directions. There are no trees to break the horizon. No mountains to orient your vision. No rivers, roads, buildings, signs, nothing indicating civilization or even life. It's like being on the surface of another planet. A planet made entirely of ice and wind. The ground beneath your feet isn't Earth. It's permafrost. Permanent ice that goes down 300 meters deep. Ice that never, at any time of year, completely thaws. It's like living on a floating ice platform in the middle of a frozen ocean, because that's exactly what it is. You're literally walking on solid water that could break at any moment, sending you to the frozen depths of the Arctic Ocean. And the silence. Arctic silence isn't like any silence you've ever experienced. It's not the quiet of city dawn where there's still distant traffic hum, air conditioner drone, occasional dog bark. It's silence so deep you can hear your own heart beating. You can hear blood running through your veins. It's silence that makes you question if you really exist, if you haven't died and are in some kind of frozen limbo. But this deadly silence can be instantly broken by the most terrifying sound nature can produce. Arctic wind. It's not wind that sways trees in the park. It's wind that cuts like blades, carrying ice crystals at speeds of 100 kilometers per hour, transforming each snow particle into a microscopic projectile that pierces any exposed skin. When this wind arrives, visibility drops to absolute zero. It's like being inside a giant washing machine full of white cotton. You can't see your own hand stretched in front of your face. And at this moment, if you're 50 meters from your shelter, you can die lost literally next to your own home. People have died frozen 20 meters from safety because they couldn't find the entrance to their own igloo during a blizzard. The landscape constantly changes, but always remains the same. Wind sculpts snow dunes that appear and disappear overnight. You can leave to hunt in the morning following a route you've known for years, and return in the afternoon to discover your familiar landscape has been completely redesigned by wind. Landmarks that existed for decades simply disappear, buried under meters of new snow, or are sculpted into unrecognizable formations. During polar darkness months, this scenery becomes even more surreal. There's no sunrise to orient your internal compass, no shadows to indicate direction. Sometimes the only available light comes from aurora borealis, but this light dances, changes position, creates shadows that move, making your own perception of space and movement completely unreliable. And then there are sounds that shouldn't exist but do. Ice talking. Literally. When ice plates expand and contract with temperature changes, they produce sounds ranging from low, prolonged moans to high, sudden cracks that sound like rifle shots. It's as if the planet itself is complaining, protesting against its own existence under these impossible conditions. The dangers are invisible and deadly. Ice cracks that can open without warning, swallowing an entire person in seconds. Toxic gases that occasionally escape from decomposing permafrost. Sudden weather changes that can drop temperature 20 degrees in minutes. Predators, polar bears that camouflage perfectly in snow, moving in absolute silence until they're close enough to attack. In this scenario that defies all logic of human habitability, where each day is a battle for survival against elements that seem to actively conspire against life, entire communities exist that don't just survive, they flourish. Families gathering to tell stories, children playing in snow, couples falling in love under aurora borealis, elderly people who live decades under these conditions and die peacefully of old age, not cold. This is the impossible scenario that the Inuit transformed into home sweet home. Forget everything you think you know about igloos. Get that cute cartoon image out of your head, with a polar bear family living in a round little ice house. Because what the Inuit created isn't an ice house, it's one of the greatest thermal engineering masterpieces in human history. Technology so sophisticated that modern engineers still study its principles to develop industrial insulation systems. Imagine you're a NASA engineer and your boss comes to you with this challenge. I need you to build a shelter that maintains 16 degrees Celsius inside while it's minus 40 outside. You have only one tool, a saw, and only one material, snow. Oh, and this shelter needs to be built in 2 hours, resist winds of 100 kilometers per hour, and last months without maintenance. You'd laugh at him. You'd say it's physically impossible. But the Inuit solved exactly this problem millennia ago, using only empirical knowledge passed from father to son. The first genius is in the material itself. Snow isn't just frozen water. It's a composite material with complex molecular structure. Each snowflake is hexagonal, like honeycomb cells, and up to 95% of its composition is trapped air. This air functions as millions of microscopic insulation chambers. Snow's thermal conductivity is 100 times lower than aluminum. It's literally a natural thermal insulator more efficient than many modern synthetic materials. But not just any snow will do. The Inuit developed scientific knowledge about snow types that would make modern meteorologists ashamed. They know exactly what type of snow to use, called pugak, created when strong winds blow over specific snow layers, compacting it to exact density. Too soft and the igloo collapses. Too hard, and it doesn't insulate adequately. Perfect snow has a specific temperature window. It must be below 20 degrees negative, but not much below, or it becomes brittle like glass. Construction begins with an act of architectural genius that our ancestors discovered intuitively, but was only explained mathematically centuries later. The igloo isn't built as a simple dome. It's built in catenary shape, a curve that distributes weight absolutely perfectly. It's the same shape architects use in modern suspension bridges, but the Inuit discovered it by observing snow's own weight. Each block is cut with surgical precision. 12 kilograms of compacted snow, sawed from frozen ground with exact measurements. And here's the trick that would make any civil engineer's jaw drop. Blocks are arranged in ascending spiral, slightly inclined inward, so each block supports the previous one. There's no mortar, no glue, no internal structure. It's just pure physics. Each piece supports another in perfect mathematical harmony. But real magic happens when the igloo is finished and people enter. Heat from human bodies, just 37 degrees Celsius, begins a thermal engineering process that would be impossible to replicate artificially. Heated air rises, microscopically melts the internal surface of walls, and this melting freezes again in contact with external cold. This process creates an internal layer of pure ice that functions as an impermeable barrier. It's a self-repairing and self-strengthening system. The more you use the igloo, the stronger it gets. Moisture from your breathing passes between blocks, freezes on the external side, and literally welds the joints. It's as if the igloo repairs itself constantly, using only heat from your own body. And then there's internal design, a masterpiece of applied physics that solves air circulation problems our modern climate systems still face. The igloo is built on two distinct levels, a low entrance where cold, heavier air settles, and an elevated platform up to 60 centimeters where people actually live. Warm, lighter air naturally rises and concentrates in this upper area, creating a natural convection heating system that works 24 hours a day without any external energy. Ventilation is controlled by a small hole strategically positioned at 3/4 of the igloo's height. It's not just to let air circulate. It's a pressurization system that maintains perfect balance between oxygen renewal and heat conservation. Too small, and you suffocate. Too large, and you lose heat. The exact size was calculated empirically through generations of trial and error, resulting in ventilation engineering knowledge that would rival any modern system. And the final result? A shelter that can maintain up to 20 degrees difference with external environment, using only body heat as energy source. When it's minus 45 degrees outside, inside the igloo, it can be a comfortable 16 degrees positive. Temperature sufficient to boil water, cook food, and live comfortably in light clothing. This isn't primitive survival. It's advanced engineering disguised as simplicity. It's proof that true genius doesn't need computers, laboratories, or synthetic materials. It just needs meticulous observation, accumulated knowledge, and courage to transform the most unlikely material, ice, into the most elegant solution for one of survival's greatest challenges. The Inuit didn't build igloos. They invented sustainable thermal architecture millennia before this expression existed: fire in ice. These three words together defy all logic. It's like saying dry water. or luminous darkness. But in the Inuits' impossible universe, fire doesn't just exist in ice. It's the difference between life and death, between hope and despair, between humanity and extinction. Imagine trying to light a candle in an industrial freezer. Now imagine that freezer is at minus 40 degrees, surrounded by winds that cut like razors, in complete darkness, without matches, without a lighter, without anything the modern world considers essential for making fire. Sounds impossible? For the Inuit, it's just Tuesday. The solution to this paradox has a name: Quillik. It's not just an oil lamp, it's a masterpiece of chemical engineering developed over millennia. A piece carved from soapstone a mineral geologists call steatite, but the Inuit know simply as the stone that doesn't break with heat. The genius begins in the material itself. Soapstone isn't common stone. It's a metamorphic mineral composed mainly of talc, with extraordinary thermal properties. It absorbs heat slowly, distributes evenly, and never cracks even with extreme temperature changes. It's as if nature created the perfect material for Arctic survival. But real magic is in the fuel. Forget wood, coal, gas, or anything you associate with fire. The Inuit discovered something modern science took centuries to understand. Animal fat is the most efficient fuel for combustion at extreme temperatures, specifically seal and whale fat. This isn't just any fat. It's highly concentrated liquid fuel, with energy density superior to gasoline. A single spoonful of seal fat can burn for hours, producing enough heat to keep a family warm during an Arctic storm. It's as if each Arctic animal were a walking gas station. The science behind this combustion is fascinating. Marine mammal fat has specific chemical composition, long-chain fatty acids that burn cleanly and steadily, even at low temperatures. It doesn't produce toxic smoke, doesn't generate strong odor, and maintains stable flame even with winds that topple trees. The wick is another work of genius. Made from dry Arctic moss or wild cotton fibers, it needs exact thickness to maintain perfect balance. Too thin, and flame goes out with first wind gust. Too thick, and it consumes fuel quickly while producing smoke that can suffocate an entire family in enclosed space. Lighting a quillik under Arctic conditions is like performing heart surgery with frozen hands. It requires millimetric precision, perfect timing, and knowledge accumulated across generations. Fire needs constant feeding, adjustment according to external temperature, protection from wind, but maintained with sufficient ventilation to not consume all shelter oxygen. Inside the igloo, this small flame creates a microclimate that defies thermodynamics laws. External temperature can be minus 40 degrees, but around the quillik, air heats to habitable levels. Radiant heat allows entire families to stay alive, cook food, melt ice for drinking water, and dry wet clothes that, if left to freeze, would kill by hypothermia. But there's a quillik dimension that goes beyond physics and chemistry. It's the psychological aspect of flame. During polar darkness months, when human mind struggles against depression and despair, this small light becomes emotional anchor. It's visual proof that life persists, that humanity found a way to exist where it should be impossible. Quillik maintenance is traditionally female responsibility, representing one of the most critical functions in Inuit society. A woman who mastered fire art was literally the difference between her family living or dying during Arctic winter. It was applied science, practical chemistry, thermal engineering, all passed from mother to daughter through oral knowledge and constant practice. What makes this technology even more impressive is its total sustainability. Nothing is wasted. Fat comes from animals hunted for food, soapstone is locally available, wick is made from materials collected during summer. It's perfect circular economy applied to extreme survival. This small flame in the middle of infinite ice represents one of intelligence's greatest victories over nature's forces. It's proof that knowledge, observation, and experimentation can transform impossible into everyday. Inuit fire in ice isn't just combustion. It's physical manifestation of human refusal to accept limits. It's science, art, spirituality, and survival condensed into a flame that should never exist, but has been shining for thousands of years in Earth's coldest and darkest place. Hunting in the Arctic isn't a regular activity. It's not an adventure. It's not a hobby. It's a matter of life or death. In a scenario where sunlight disappears for months, the thermometer plunges to minus 40 degrees, and wind blows so hard it seems to want to tear your skin off. Going out to hunt is a challenge worthy of the greatest epics. For the Inuit, hunting is the foundation of survival. It's not just about food. It's the source of heat, clothing, fuel, and even tools. Nothing hunted is wasted. Every part of the animal has a vital function. Fat feeds the lamps, skin becomes clothing, and bone becomes utensils. It's pure economy of life where everything has value and nothing can be discarded. Now imagine you need to leave shelter, enter a world in complete darkness where temperature is unimaginably low, and walk for hours to known locations waiting for the right moment to capture prey. You'll be alone in white vastness surrounded by deadly silence where the slightest noise can scare prey, and the slightest error can be fatal for you. Inuit clothing are true armor against extreme cold. Clothes made from animal skins meticulously sewn that protect even from the cruelest wind gusts. But even so, energy expenditure to keep body warm is enormous. 1 hour outside shelter can mean the limit between life and hypothermia. Hunting itself requires deep knowledge of Arctic animal behavior. Seals, for example, are hunted through holes in ice where they need to surface to breathe. The hunter must remain motionless, almost invisible, for hours, waiting for the exact moment for the harpoon. One wrong movement, an unexpected sound, and the hunt is lost. Beyond technique, there's constant danger. Predatory animals like polar bears roam the region. Their approach is almost imperceptible, as their natural camouflage makes them invisible in Arctic white. An attack can be fast and deadly. Furthermore, climatic conditions are a constant threat. Snowstorms can arise within minutes, reducing visibility to zero and making it impossible to find the way back to shelter. Many hunters have lost their lives just meters from home, lost in the white sea of snow. Hunting is also a social ritual. Sharing the hunt is sharing life. Food isn't individual property, but belongs to the community. Each piece of meat, each liter of oil is divided to ensure everyone survives. And although the scenario seems like a frozen apocalypse, full of risks, the Inuit developed a deep and respectful relationship with nature. They aren't just hunters, they are guardians of a delicate ecosystem, understanding prey cycles, respecting seasons, and ensuring hunting remains sustainable for future generations. Hunting in the Arctic is therefore a combination of physical resistance, strategic intelligence, courage, and deep respect for life. It's the maximum manifestation of human capacity to transform adversity into survival. Imagine the white vastness before you, uninterrupted, like a frozen and motionless ocean. The only thing that moves are wind shadows traversing this frozen plain, lifting snowflakes that seem like small particles dancing in frozen air. The sensation is being suspended in absolute silence, where each of your steps echoes like thunder's roar in an empty cathedral. You wear thick skins that decades ago would have cost lives to produce. Each seam is handmade, each layer designed to block cutting wind and retain minimal possible heat. Even so, your body seems to spend all fuel quickly, burning fat to maintain stable temperature. 1 minute outside shelter is 1 minute further from life. Silence is broken only by occasional sound of ice crystals crackling, creating a chilling soundtrack for this journey. The horizon, marked only by slight elevations and shadows, acts as your guide. You trust completely in your sharpened senses, detecting the subtlest environmental changes. A strange noise could be a predator, a different smell, wind change, footprint pattern in frozen snow. All are vital signs for your survival. Arctic hunting requires almost superhuman patience. You can't allow yourself any error. The prey you await like seals can disappear in a blink, and error can mean hunger and cold for your entire community. You become part of the environment, almost invisible, waiting for the exact moment to act. When the mind fights against darkness, it faces its greatest enemy, the absence of light that regulates everything we are. In Canada's far north, where Inuit tribes live, this enemy isn't abstract. It manifests brutally during polar night months, when sun disappears for weeks or even months. Without constant sunlight presence, the human biological clock collapses. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, spikes excessively, while serotonin, which keeps us awake and happy, plummets. The result? A chemical bombardment of sensations that can make minds falter. Excessive daytime sleepiness, nighttime insomnia, growing anxiety, irritability, and in extreme cases, deep depression. For the Inuit, darkness months aren't just absence of vision. They're absence of normalcy, anticipated comfort, predictability, daily routine loses its natural anchors. Time becomes an indistinct concept, and emotional space becomes an internal storm difficult to control. But the Inuit developed over millennia strategies to resist and even thrive in this adverse psychological environment. First, community becomes a shield. Close coexistence is medicine against loneliness that darkness threatens to impose. Stories are told in circles, songs are sung, traditional games are played. All this creates a social network that keeps minds focused and connected. Additionally, rituals are fundamental. Time's passage is marked by ceremonies rescuing connection with nature, even if invisible. Hope is kept alive through belief in sun's return, in life's renewal that summer brings. This hope isn't illusion, but psychological fuel allowing passage through shadowy months. Physics is also psyche's ally. Aurora borealis light, however faint and ephemeral, offers a natural spectacle that fascinates and connects people to something greater than themselves. This spiritual connection is foundation for mental resilience. Inside houses and igloos, gentle warmth from Quilic lamps and fires creates cozy atmosphere combating emotional cold sensation. Yellowish light is soft, inviting, calming the nervous system. Shared warmth reinforces bonds, brings security, and nourishes life. Imagine waking up every day without knowing if it's morning or late night. Imagine looking through your shelter's small opening and seeing always the same impenetrable darkness, as if the world had been erased by cosmic force. This is daily reality for Inuit during polar night, but they transformed this apparent curse into opportunity to strengthen family and community bonds. During these shadowy months, stories gain their own life. Elders become living libraries, narrating epics of ancestral heroes, legends of talking animals, survival tales inspiring courage. These narratives aren't just entertainment, they're collective therapy, keeping minds busy and connected with people's rich cultural heritage. Traditional games also play a crucial role in maintaining mental health. Competitions of strength, dexterity, and intelligence create moments of joy and camaraderie, counterbalancing natural melancholy of prolonged darkness. Laughing together becomes active resistance against despair. This balance between external darkness and internal light isn't just psychological. It's complex choreography of hormones, rituals, social connections, and cultural adaptations allowing Inuit not just to survive, but flourish psychologically. In contrast with mid- and low-latitude residents who often suffer winter syndrome due to seasonal light variations, Inuit incorporated darkness into their vital cycle, shaping it as part of existence instead of obstacle. This mind's fight against darkness is one of human condition's deepest battles. It reminds us that more than cold or hunger, psychological isolation can be lethal, and teaches that light, whether physical or symbolic, is what keeps humanity's spark alive, even in most inaccessible and challenging places. This spark is what keeps Inuit people's culture, history, hope, and strength alive, resisting eternal night with courage, connection, and humanity. Inuit spirituality is much more than isolated beliefs or rituals. It's a fundamental survival tool, a lens through which they understand and interact with the Arctic's brutal and unpredictable world. For anyone who has lived under summer's constant sun or clear skies of lower latitudes, Arctic's interminable darkness and extreme cold seem too inhospitable for any human being. But for Inuit, this isn't just physical reality. It's also spiritual reality where each nature element possesses life and purpose. The Inuit world is inhabited by spirits. Each hunted animal, each natural phenomenon, each ice stretch or wind current has its own spiritual identity. They aren't distant or unreal mystical entities. They're living forces that need respect to guarantee life's continuity. Hunting isn't simply finding and killing prey to feed family. It's sacred exchange between humans and animal spirit. Before hunting, rituals are performed asking permission and expressing gratitude to prey's spirit. This creates balance between human need and deep nature respect. This spiritual relationship strengthens community as whole. Respect for these forces creates rules and conducts governing human interaction with environment, promoting sustainability and avoiding excesses that could compromise ecological balance. Beyond hunting, spirituality permeates daily life. Inuit believe ancestor spirits walk among them, guiding, protecting, and teaching. This ancestral presence strengthens sense of belonging and continuity, fundamental for withstanding extreme adversities. Stories told around fire, myths and legends, serve not just to entertain, but to transmit values, teach survival lessons, and preserve knowledge accumulated over centuries. Furthermore, Inuit spirituality offers method for dealing with fear and uncertainty. In an environment where unexpected can mean death, accepting that forces beyond human control are acting allows active resignation, balance between action and acceptance, preventing despair and strengthening mental resilience. Drum ceremony, for example, is ancestral practice combining music, dance, and spiritual connection. It serves to harmonize community, align energies, and invoke protection against visible and invisible dangers. Spirit respect also manifests in careful post-hunt practices, where nothing is wasted, and each farewell to dead animal is form of gratitude and recognition of sacrificed life. This spiritual vision is one of deep reasons why Inuit can face conditions that would seem unsustainable for any other human group. It creates sense of purpose, connection, and meaning transcending physical suffering. Spirituality for Inuit isn't escape from Arctic's brutal reality. Its most powerful weapon against it. Its invisible thread connecting each individual to their community, to nature and cosmos, forming network of strength and hope as vital as any shelter or food. This living spirituality is a profound lesson for modern world, that human survival doesn't depend just on technology or science, but on capacity to connect with invisible, recognize life's interdependence, and embrace humility before forces governing our planet. Thus, in Arctic's frozen silence, while eternal night envelops everything, Inuit spirituality's flame burns strong, warming hearts, guiding steps, and keeping life's flame alive against nature's implacable forces. The modern world arrived in Arctic like silent and implacable avalanche. It didn't come with war drums or military invasions. It came disguised as progress, carrying bright promises of easier, more connected, safer life. But for Inuit, this arrival represents perhaps the greatest challenge they've faced in 4,000 years of existence. Greater than Arctic storms, greater than hunger, greater even than deadly cold. First wound was invisible but devastating, breaking ancestral knowledge transmission. For millennia, grandparents sat with grandchildren around Kulik warmth, whispering survival secrets that saved entire generations. How to read weather signs through snow texture. How to distinguish safe ice from treacherous ice just by sound of footsteps. How to find fresh water amid ocean's frozen salt. Today, many young Inuit prefer smartphone bright screens to elders' whispered stories. Knowledge that took 4 millennia to refine is disappearing in single generation. It's like burning entire library, page by page, replacing survival treatises with TikTok videos. But tragedy goes beyond lost culture. Global warming transformed Arctic into battlefield between present and future. Ice that was always eternal, reliable as breathing, is now treacherous. Entire families fall through plates that should support whales' weight, but now break under child's weight. Traditional hunting routes, mapped in collective memory for centuries, simply disappeared. Where before there were solid surfaces to cross, now there's open and dangerous water. Animals, confused by climate changes, altered their migration patterns. Seals appear where they never appeared. Fish disappear from waters where they always were. It's as if planet itself decided to rewrite game rules mid-match, leaving Arctic survival masters lost in their own home. Monetary economy brought another kind of cold, inequalities cold. Communities that for millennia shared everything now divide between haves and have-nots. Families that always hunted together now compete for salaried jobs, often requiring abandonment of traditional practices. Alcohol arrived as anesthesia for transition pain, but brought its own tragedies. Suicide rates skyrocketed among youth feeling lost between two worlds. Ancestral they no longer understand, and modern that doesn't fully accept them. Prefabricated houses replaced igloos, but sink into melting permafrost. Supermarkets brought processed foods, but at cost that can consume entire month's salary. Convenience came with dependence price. Formal education, while valuable, frequently devalues traditional knowledge. Children learn about Shakespeare, but not about stars that guided their ancestors through polar darkness. They know mathematics, but can't calculate wind direction by snow's inclination. Digital connectivity created cruel paradox. Never were Inuit so connected with outside world and so disconnected from their own roots. Youth who can converse with people from other side of planet can no longer converse with their own grandparents in native language. Inuit languages, with their dozens of words for different snow and ice types, are dying. Each lost word is survival concept that disappears. It's like losing specialized tools that can never be recreated. But perhaps most painful loss is confidence. For 4,000 years, Inuit trusted their knowledge, their community, their capacity to read nature. Now bombarded by contradictory information, unpredictable climate changes, and unfulfilled modern world promises, many no longer know what to believe. However, not everything is lost. New generation of Inuit leaders is emerging, determined to create bridges between worlds. They use drones to monitor ice but apply ancestral knowledge to interpret data. They create digital documentaries to preserve oral stories. They teach in schools both modern science and traditional navigation. Some communities are rediscovering that ancestral sustainability can teach modern world much about living in harmony with environment. Their sustainable hunting methods, food conservation techniques, circular economy where nothing is wasted, all are vital lessons for planet in climate crisis. Modern world's price was high, perhaps too high, but there's still time for Inuit not just to survive this transition, but lead it, showing how to honor past while embracing future. Question now isn't whether Inuit will survive modern world, but whether modern world is willing to learn from 4,000 years of wisdom about living in extremes, because extremes are coming for all of us. The lesson we cannot ignore from Inuit peoples goes far beyond simple ability to survive intense cold or eternal darkness. It's lesson about essence of human resistance, about how to face extreme adversities without losing humanity, and above all, about importance of deep connection with nature, community, and oneself, living in one of planet's most inhospitable places, where life expectancy was dramatically limited and where smallest error could be fatal. Inuit developed way of life challenging all modern conceptions of survival and success. They show us that resisting isn't just keeping body alive, but keeping soul alive. First, Inuit reveal that true resilience is built on accumulated knowledge not caged in books or academies, but pulsing in living experience, passed orally through generations, refined by shipwrecks and storms and infinite nights. This knowledge is multidimensional, involves nature science, survival engineering, community psychology, and spirituality. Each aspect doesn't function in isolation. They form complex and deeply interconnected networks sustaining complete and self-sufficient way of life. Second great lesson is about community importance. In cultures facing extreme environments, individualism is luxury that can be deadly. Inuit survival is collective, sharing food, dividing shelters, caring for elderly, celebrating together are practices maintaining delicate social balance, capable of resisting despair and isolation. This translates into true cooperation economy, where one's success is everyone's success. In world-glorifying solitary hero, Inuit remind us we're essentially social beings, and cooperation is true weapon against any adversity. Third lesson is about environmental relationship. For Inuit, nature isn't resource to be exploited, but sacred and living partner. This vision promotes deep respect and sustainability, preventing ecosystem exhaustion. They teach us that long-term survival depends on harmony and balance with natural world. Pressing message for planet today, facing unprecedented climate crisis. Additionally, Inuit spirituality brings fundamental contribution. It provides purpose and meaning going beyond mere physical existence. Amid interminable winters and constant darkness, finding meaning and hope within oneself and community is what keeps human spirit intact. In global scenario where mental health issues gain increasing attention, Inuit offer ancestral model of how to integrate body, mind, and spirit to face suffering and find strength in human connections and life reverence. Finally, Inuit teach us about adaptability. They didn't just survive for millennia, they evolved alongside their environment. Integrating ancestral knowledge with contemporary technologies, they show tradition and innovation can coexist and strengthen each other. This capacity to reinvent facing challenges is perhaps greatest lesson for any human society, especially in a world where rapid changes seem only constant. Inuit lesson is therefore urgent and powerful invitation. Seek balance between ancestral wisdom and modern science, between individuality and community, between consumption and planet respect. It's call to review our relationship with world and ourselves, to recognize that, like them, we only truly survive when connected, with others, with nature, and with our deepest values. Ignoring this lesson is an option. It's essential not just for Arctic people's survival, but for all humanity facing its own darkness in form of environmental, social, and spiritual crises. May we carry this lesson as guiding light, learning from masters of human resistance and finding in their wisdom path to more resilient, human, and connected future.